Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Azure Sales Seminar. We will talk today about the migration to the Azure, how to sell exactly the migration to the Azure, how to talk with the customers about the prices, about the cloud, etc., etc. Plus, we will talk about some opportunity for you to sell a hybrid infrastructure, how to will work in current infrastructure or customer infrastructure, and what part of the customer infrastructure you can move to the Azure itself, etc., etc. And my name is Igor Shestitka. I am traditional speaker of the MUK company. I am Microsoft MVP. You can find me on the LinkedIn by my name or by this direct link, whatever. I worked for Microsoft for 10 years. Currently I am senior manager of the Azure Cloud Operations, and I have a lot of experience in Azure, not only in terms of the technical stuff, but also in terms of pre-sales, talk with the customers about the discussions, the migration projects, etc., etc. And today I will try to share all of my experience for you. So, and as it was mentioned before, if you have any questions, please write down on the chat, and also I will do this some breaks, short breaks after some big part, let's say, of the presentation to ask your question directly if you have it. But please use the chat, not microphone, to avoid some like breaks and noise in the chat itself. And of course, this meeting was prepared for you by MUK company. Please contact with the MUK if you have any other questions. And as I said before, again, so agenda of the current meetings, we will talk about the difference between the real cloud providers and what it's named virtual machine hosters, because in the countries like CIS, I mean ex-USSR, there's a lot of companies who say that we are the cloud provider. What exactly is the cloud provider, and how to differentiate between the cloud provider and virtual machine hosters, we will talk about, because when you will try to sell something to the customer who already has infrastructure, for example, of virtual machines, websites, etc., on the web hosters, they will say, oh, look, Azure has like 3 times more expensive the prices. We will continue. It's also the cloud. We know that this is the cloud. So how to go through this discussion, what you have to say to the customer, etc., how to manage the customer's price expectation, we will talk about in this part of our meeting. Next one, it will be the migrate to the cloud itself, like a project, like a bestseller project, because it's a lot of requests to migrate to the cloud. And we will talk about the different parts of the migration process step by step. We will talk about what is 5R, 6R strategy, what is the migration stages, what is the like 30%, etc., etc., migration strategy. So it will be a lot of packet information, plus of course we will talk about how to calculate the price and how to migrate exactly what you have to do, or what you have to ask for the customer, which prices will be skipped, and how to calculate the total cost of solution, not total cost of ownership, but total cost of solution itself. Yeah, so like this will be the second part of our webcast today. And the third part, it's exactly the building of the hybrid infrastructure. We will not go in deeper in the technical details, but I will try to explain you the basic things that you have to explain to the customer, that if the customer planning to move to the Azure but still wants to have, or it's required to have for the customer the on-premise infrastructure, which part you have to discuss, like connections, connectivity between Azure and on-premise lands, and how to discuss and what you can do, can propose to the customer. And the same way, the on-premises Active Directory, because Azure AD it's a most important part. So some things about the synchronization, some things about the your understanding how it will work, etc. And of course, about the services that you can use ASAP and propose for the customer ASAP, even without the migration to the Azure main parts. But it's possible, for example, to migrate file servers like Azure Files or File Sync to have hybrid or cloud infrastructure of the file storages, customers' file storages. It's about the Azure Monitor. If the customer need to monitor some solution, right now customer can make a choice between using, for example, System Center Operation Manager or Azure Monitor. Please, someone has the background noise, children noise, children voices on the background. Please turn off the mic, please. Okay, also we will talk about the same about the backup. So do we need to have the backup on premise, or we can use the backup on Azure, and what exactly you can to discuss with the customer about, and why the prices, etc., will be better to use in Azure. Plus, we will talk some things about the Azure Arc, new technology in the Azure that's combine all of these stuffs, plus how to manage and what you can say for the customers if customers say, okay, fine, yeah, let's go, but who will manage this? How we will manage this? So we will talk about the Windows Admin Center, like one main point to manage hybrid infrastructure, operation systems, and Azure virtual machines, and on-premise operation systems, etc., etc. And of course, I will give you ideas that the sales, it's not the end of the interaction with the customer. And right now, Microsoft research, other research on the market says that best approach and best value you will have if you will propose customer not only the professional services in Azure, but also the managed services in Azure. And I will try to explain you the idea of managed services in Azure and why it's most profitable solution and why you have to build it. It's exactly what I am doing on my position. I am managing, I built from scratch and managing the managed services in the one of the biggest company on the Middle East. Questions, proposals, etc., etc., please left it on the chat. And let's start again. So, like, what exactly cloud computing and cloud providers, what it means? So when someone says that we have the cloud, is it true or not true? So the cloud is defining really easy, and you need to understand this like just 5 main points here. It's a NIST, National Industrial Standard of United States, etc. But anyway, there is the document that officially says it's like to name it this cloud. First one, it's on-demand self-service. So like it's not about that something that only provider will do. Like I need to build virtual machine, what I want, right? No, you can't. We need to prepare you some images, etc., etc. No, so like on-demand self-service, it's one of the big part of the cloud. Second one, it's broad network access. What it means, typical scenario when you talk with some VM hosters, not cloud providers, and want to build the network, they say, no, we will define your virtual networks. No, we will define and control your subnets. No, we will define and control your IP ranges, and you have to ask us to do these changes inside your infrastructure. It's not a cloud again. So like this is the first part. Second part, that's when you want to connect externally, you have to have no any limitation to do this based on some client limitation. For example, in Azure, you can just create the virtual network and create the virtual gateway, build the VPN gateway, and do what you want. So like it's your responsibility to have any connections from anywhere, right? to the cloud, from the cloud, without any interaction with the exactly the owner of this cloud. It's a really important part. Second part, again, so it's resource pooling. When we are talking about that's like, again, we have a pool of resources, and it's multi-tenant model. You are not sharing, let's say, your rights, your roles, etc., with someone also. So you are working in your tenant, and this is a really important part because, so like, a lot of VM hosters, they have flat model. So like they're admins for all, not like Azure, when you have your tenant, when you have your subscription, when you have your managed groups, etc., etc. And really important part, two really important parts that's never provided by VM hosters, let's say, rapid elasticity. So it means that how much resource you need, you will have it. No limitation. If I want the virtual machine with the 128 CPUs, I will get it with the 1 terabyte of the memory. If I want to scale my infrastructure from one virtual machine to 1,000 virtual machines, I can have it instead of the VM, let's say, hosters that they say, no. You have to ask us to allow you to build more, etc., etc. But again, so like if we are talking about some critical business situation, whatever, okay, let's say not 1,000 virtual machines, but let's say even 100, because my application right now is really growing because I did some marketing campaign, and this campaign gives me and giving me right now, right, a lot of connections, a lot of new customers. Why I have to wait to end contact to the operator of the support of the vendor, hoster provider, to wait that they will unblock me additional resources? So this is exactly the rapid elasticity that's Azure provides and cloud has to provide. And when you will have the discussion with some customers that say, we have local cloud. No, they have never. Trust me, I don't know any real cloud in CIS. Because, again, the nature of the cloud, how it's provided and based. And the same measured services, you are paying not like a just virtual machine, right? You are paying about the consumption. You are receiving the right information about your consumption. You are receiving right data. You are working with the real monitor data, etc., etc., etc. And what is this ways? Is it clear, right? So like Azure is fully compatible with all of these requirements to the cloud instead of another, let's say, non-official clouds. Like if we are talking about AWS, Google, yes, of course. If we're talking about DigitalOcean, yes, so they provide a lot of again services too, but no one locally, not. Typically, again, so it's hand managed, handmade, and not a really rapid elasticity solution. And when we will talk with the customer, I will not go through this detail more detailed, but again, so when you will talk with the customer about the moving to the Azure or about moving to any cloud, we are not talking about just Azure. It's also compatible with AWS, it's compatible with the Google Cloud, etc. So which processes, which selection criteria should be provided, and ask the customer about the finance health of this company. So they will invest inside to the infrastructure, inside some unknown data center, and after that what? So you spend money, you spend time, you put the business critical or even mission critical solution to the some data center, and tomorrow they will say, oh, sorry, we have no money, please pay us more or we will close. So finance health, it's really important organizational governance, planning and risk management, how the company does this, how the provider, does this, how it works, the trust. Are you trusting this provider? Do you know these guys, right? Or it's like how long on the business these guys. Again, so the business knowledges and technical knowledges of provider, it's really important because it's processes, because it's understanding what the business needs, etc. And compliance audit. So like there's a lot of regulation right now, digital regulation in Europe, in United States, whatever. If your customers are planning to publish some websites for the Europe, they have to go with the required regulations, right, like GDPR, right? And it means that the provider itself should be also be compliant with the GDPR, have to pass the audits, etc., etc. It's a business part, right? The same one is administrative support. What is the way for provide the SLA, and which SLA provided, and what will happen with the if some SLAs will be broken, and what's next, right? So like, what is the responsibility for the SLAs? Do you know the SLAs of the solution, and is it proof? Performance reporting, as I mentioned before, it's really important to understand how, for example, if we are talking about the virtual machines on the cloud, how exactly the cores mapped to the physical cores, all right, virtual cores to the physical cores, and what is the ratio of the mapping. For example, Azure provide 1:1 and 1:2, but for cloud let's say not cloud, virtual machine providers, hosters, it's typically like to have 1:4, 1:8. Is it really like a performance solution? And again, so monitoring changes, billing and right billing, detailed billing, it's really important part of the solution like this. Plus the same way, again, technical capabilities and processes, like how the customer or you can build ask the customer, okay, you're going to the web hoster or virtual machine hoster, you need to build 100 virtual machines. What's next? Azure has ARM templates. Azure has a lot of features to automate this. Azure has like a lot of features to monitor this and continue to build the solution, etc., etc. Do they have the same APIs, right? Do the same has the guys from the hoster perspective? Standard, again, APIs, as mentioned before. Event management, how the customer provides events to you, how you can react, how you can build the alerts, how you can build the reporting, etc., based on your requirements and technical processes. How you can do the change management inside your infrastructure and have the change management outside the infrastructure. I mean, that's like, you know about the maintenance windows, you know about all the maintenance stuff for each cloud solutions that you are using. You are using the virtual machines. Okay, we are planning to do some updates of the physical host where the virtual machines will be placed. Okay, you have the virtual machine website. These websites hosted behind the application firewall. We are planning to do the application firewall maintenance, and you will have like a one hour possible interruption for the 1-2 minutes on the connectivity with your client. All of this stuff, again, so like this is exactly the criteria of the selection. And the same for security infrastructure, physical security policy, identity management, how the provider provide you way. We will talk about this, about the Azure AD, your way to work with identity, data backup and retention in terms of how the provider protects your data and protects its infrastructure itself, right? So all of this stuff should be review it and define it by the customer before choosing like Azure or some on-premise cloud, etc., or even between the different clouds. And yeah, so like someone says that Azure has a high price. Yes, it's true. If you take the machines, like 500 of thousands virtual machines in private cloud with VMware, and try to calculate the equivalent infra one to one, like we have this machine in the virtual machine on our data center with 8 gigabytes, 8 CPU and 32 gigabytes of memory, and try to calculate same way again. So you will get the price like 1 to 3. Azure will be 3 times expensive. But again, so like the idea of our event today to discuss, that's Azure. It's about consumption, and you will need to understand, and you will need to explain to the customers that okay, guys, you have on-premise machines with 32 gigs of RAM, but real usage of these machines just only 32 gigs, right, on these machines. It's just a few days per month. After that, you are not using even like 8 gigs of RAM. The same for CPU. You assign for virtual machine, or you are using the physical server with 16 cores. But this 16 cores average utilization is 5%. You need the 16 cores if normal utilization should be 50-70% of the CPU. So, and this is right migration. Plus, do not forget that we are discussing before that Azure high prices. It's not only about like a price itself, but it's worldwide solution. Do you know any other hosters who provide you worldwide solution? Oh, I mean local, right? Who has the data centers on any part of the world. If you need to place your solution on the Europe, you can use Europe infrastructure. If you are targeting to the Dubai and want to have the customers in Dubai and provide services for Dubai, we have here UAE North, right? A data center for the Dubai. Abu Dhabi government, go to the UAE Central. Abu Dhabi and Abu Dhabi government, Abu Dhabi companies will work with you, will get the like in 1 milliseconds access to your solutions, right? So like any other hosters, do they have a roadmap for a few years? If some customer says, oh, okay, so look, the price like here, $10, you are asking about $50 for in the Azure. Sorry, can you turn off the mic? So like, ask about what will happen in next month. What is your plans to build the new data centers? How your capacity will grow? How your infrastructure will grow? Which services are you planning to bring to the market? When I will have this feature, if you open the Azure and if you don't know what, don't found the features that you required, look on the roadmap. Maybe it will be in 3 months, in 6 months, in 1 year, on the required data center, required region. So like, this is one. Certification, just look on the Azure certification or any public cloud certification and ask the certification, I mean international certification like ISO for this cloud, audits, etc., government regulation and standards. I mentioned before GDPR, right? So like, we need to place the data that should be compatible with the GDPR requirements, compliance with the GDPR requirements. How you will do this with the, not you, but your customers will do with the local hosters? who will provide them audit of the GDPR, that their solution compatible with GDPR. And Azure has the feature for the GDPR, you just need to turn it on. And of course, reliability. So like each data center has the backup. In Dubai and Abu Dhabi, UAE North and UAE Central. In case of the catastrophic event, all geo-replicated data will be available on the Abu Dhabi ad hoc. We can do the replicas, we can rerun resources on the different scenarios. So security, all about the industrial security, all about the physical security, that no one will have the access. By the way, the data center of in Dubai next door with my office, but I can't get there. No one can get there, and it's owned by Etisalat itself. I mean, data center where the Azure places it, but the regulations, the ways how it's protected, all of this physical security, it's a massive part of the Azure that provide ideas that you will not lost your data if you are going for the exactly for your requirements for your data, but on the physical level, on the network level, etc., no chance. Same way again for the management and monitoring tools, compatibility, just like, okay, I want to start virtual machines with Windows Server 2008 R2. I can do this. I can start Windows 7, and Microsoft continue to work with compatibility to allow you work with your old infrastructure and move it. And the same way for the support, so like 24/7 with the high class, worldwide class support of the solution itself. Questions, if you have. Do we have any questions? No. Nope. Okay. If you have any questions about this part of the event, you're welcome. But again, so the main idea, cloud is a cloud. Hosters, it's a hosters. It's two different worlds, absolutely two different worlds. And let's talk about the migration to the Azure, and when and why, when we are talking about the Azure migration, etc., the price could be splitted on the half, etc., if you are looking on the right processes. So like, if you have the team who is the technical team, so you have to build with the team the process and talk with the customer about the process to really the right way to sell the migration to the Azure, to give a customer full experience of the Azure. This is the step-by-step process. First one, it's assessment of the processes inside the company. Again, your technical team should know about these processes, etc. Identity and authentication processes, which solution applications they're using, services, hardware, networking, and another equipment. All of this, it's first step of the any migration to the process. Same time, it should be assessment of the knowledge, skills, and experience of the customer teams in Azure, because a lot of things that's you migrate to the Azure and the migration failed because admin part, technical part of support, right, customer part of support failed. They fail it and say, oh, look, this is not our issue, it's Azure. No, it's a team issue, and you need to understand it's is it possible to grow? What is the career path? And provide to the customer right idea, and to look on the career path of each member of their team, IT team, development team. Sometimes also it could be involved finance team, because it's absolutely different model on the financial, etc. Plus, again, so it's a good way to sell to sell managed services for customer, Azure managed services, to provide the long-term relationships and support to the customer. After that, So when we did the assessment and technical assessment, right, we are looking on the candidates for the different processes like retire, rehosting, converting, etc. We'll talk next, and we start exactly the technical assessment of the migration. It's tool that's named a service named the Azure Migrate. We will look on it soon. At the same time, until the technical assessment, because typically it takes up to 1 month, and it's recommended to. So, like, it's you got my idea, right? It's a really long project. Typically, it's not like a just make lift and shift. No. So until the first month or a few weeks you are doing the assessment, you are looking for the candidates, etc. After that, you start the technical assessment for selected candidates to understand the requirements, to understand the possibility for migration, for the rehosting, etc., etc. And same time, next month, you are building the infrastructure in Azure, where you will place exactly the workloads that you are planning to migrate to the customer infrastructure. It's named Azure Virtual Data Center. I will show you, because Microsoft has idea, Microsoft has documentation, Microsoft asked you to build the infrastructure right. So like you need technical team, at least one to person who understands the concept of the Azure Virtual Data Center and ready to explain to the customer what they are doing, etc. Build the hybrid identity and authentication to protect the Azure itself. We'll talk about this. And of course, build the new cloud and hybrid processes for the team, help the team, customer team to move to the cloud. And after that, after 1 month, when we have the information, when we have the approval from the management, etc., we are starting the migration. This is a basic steps that you have to do. So like it's typical project again, at least 2 months just for the preparation, and do the first step, build the empty virtual data center, build the identity, and help the team to understand what you are doing. After that, it could take also 1 to 2 months the migration itself of the resources and cut over of the current resources on premises. But before start of any of the Azure project, you have to understand that responsibility of the security of the infrastructure, it's responsibility of the client, not the Azure. So before start any cloud, before start any project at all infrastructure, you have to be sure that defense in-depth security model already implemented, or you have to recommend for the customers to start to work with this. It's a model that's described in Microsoft. Use this model that describe how the data should be protected, application should be protected, hosts, internal networks, perimeters, etc. But it's not based on the technology, but the feature or services that should be realized on each step of when you protect your data. Plus, you have to talk with the customer about the security, especially for on-premise infrastructure or hybrid infrastructure, because it's already proved that most of the attack on the cloud infrastructure started from the on-premise, because hackers attack on-premise infrastructure, get the data. Could someone turn off the mic? Start the attacks like cyber killing chain attack to get the credentials of the administrator on premise, and as far as these credentials is really often synchronized as is with the cloud, it means that after we get the data identity on premise, it will be possible to get the data or credentials in Azure. So that's like you need to discuss with the customer too. That's, guys, Azure in security will depend on your on-premise security if you are doing the hybrid identity, if you are doing the hybrid infrastructure, etc., etc. Anyway, even if the customer has only Azure infrastructure, you have to discuss this really popular slide, right? That's like, even with virtual machines, customers should realize that's like, yeah, he will not responsible for the physical security, but for the host infrastructure and network control, partially it will be responsibility of the client. So like, client will need to look on the operation system, will need to look to the network access, etc., and all other levels will be responsibility of the customer. So like, application and its protection, identity and its protection, and cloud and endpoints, that will again on-premise infrastructure, and data. In EAS, it's mostly depends on the client, not on the Azure or another cloud provider. And only if we are talking about SaaS, software as a service, we need to go through this stuff less, right? So like, but again, some mandatory accesses, even with the IaaS, should be discussed. And back to the, I promised you to discuss what is 5 Rs, etc. This is a lot of different scenarios that proposed by Azure to migrate the infrastructure, like retire, replace, retain, rehost, lift and shift, exactly right, and re-envision, re-architect. And there's a lot of the documentation that discusses about this solution itself, right? So like, you can see, for example, if we are talking about the web services, it will be better to use replace or refactor this scenario, because web services, it's native service in Azure. You don't need to have virtual machine. Same for the SQL services, where you can do the refactor or rebuild to work better with the data, right? Or based on the SaaS. That's exactly the way how you have to discuss with the customers, or your technical team have to discuss with the customers that, okay, we will do this by rehost, so it means that we will need to migrate the virtual machines. Okay, we will do this with refactor or rebuild, so we need some developer support for the customer to explain them how to do the, or what exactly the difference between SQL Server on premise and SQL database like PaaS service to work on it, right? And of course, you have to understand that you, how it say it, right? You have to eat the elephant slice by slice, right? Not at all in one piece. And it means that start with experimentals, discuss with the customer some POC or some small part of the migration that could be done easily. What can be done easily? For example, file servers. You don't need to move it because you have Azure File Service in Azure. It means that you can copy the data to the Azure and just provide the SMB access. It's a good experiment. It's a good experience for the customer, because it's always worked, trust me, always worked. There's no any issue with the Azure files and migration. Just explain the customers that they will have additional names or additional steps to connect to this. But anyway, after that, after this experiment, customers will have a trust, and you can do exactly the migration of the main part. But do not try to change this part until you migrate it. For example, we have web services. In a common scenario, it means that we migrated web services as is, like from the virtual machine or from the physical server, the code to the application service. Microsoft says that please do not do this for the production, because if you just migrate, you move all static files, you move all the processes in one application service in Azure. But it will make a lot of performance issue, a lot of architectural issue, etc., and costs. Please, after this migration, do next. What next? Split the code and static files. Put the static files just to the blob storages because it's cheaper and it's faster, etc., etc. Split the front-end procedures and atomic procedures like front-end code and some operation with the database. Put the database to the path, not to the virtual machine, and use the cache. After that, use the functions like atomic procedure. Use API management to provide the more flexible solution. It's again transformation, but before discuss with migration how you can migrate the files, how you can migrate the code, how you can migrate the database as is, and after that on place talk with the transformation. I think it's clear. And again, so like back to the there's like the sales funnel and the same migration funnel, right? So the way how you can check your strategy, the way how you can explain the strategy based on the again standard industrial practices. Typically 30% of the services or virtual machines, etc., could be removed because right sizing, because no need, etc., etc. Why we need a lot of virtual machines with the low utilization if we can use only 2 instead of 4, for example, whatever, right? And do not wait like, okay, we have 1 day or 3 days per month high performance. After that we have low performance, like periodic consumption, right? We can build these machines from scratch and from the image, golden image, right? When we need, and delete after we don't need, right? So like it's 30% of the resources is typically gone, so it's retired. Convert to EAS, it's SaaS, sorry. It's typically Office and all Office servers like SharePoint, etc., etc. A lot of database, a lot of services like Visual Studio, like CRM, like Dynamics, whatever, could be migrated to SaaS, and these services, physical virtual machines could be moved, and data could be moved to SaaS, especially again Office 365, 15%. And after that, totally 50% we take to move first, next move, and mostly hard move, right? So like the first move, it's a website, 35%, it's website portals. We are doing the migration, and after that looking for the redesign of this solution or build a new application with the same functionality based on the cloud architecture, not the like just the virtual machines, etc. Next for the moving, it's high-loaded databases, online transactions, it's business impact processes, etc., etc., like virtual machines or like PaaS. And it's hard to move. It's typically any PKI, any legacy solution, etc., typically move to IaaS. As 5%, and some 5% remain on premise. I mean, not of the services, but virtual machines or resources. It could be something like Active Directory servers, some file servers that synchronize it with the Azure files, etc., etc. Some infrastructure, or again, so the services that should work near the customer. But anyway, for example, if you will ask me, what about the System Center Operation Manager? If just monitoring and just a few features, it's more easy to move this to the Azure Monitor we will talk about. If you will ask me, what about the update management or device management, Windows Intune, right now it's endpoint management service, right? We can manage this, we can do this, and not only for the on-premise, but anywhere, because right now work from home, etc., from anywhere. And Intune will be more flexible than on-premise System Center Configuration Manager, etc., etc. Questions? No questions. Okay. Yep.
Yeah. Thank you very much. About the data sovereignty, for, let's say, for instance, if we go into the introduce these Azure cloud solutions for our customers, the first things first is they comes into mind, what about our security? And I think you just mentioned in the slide that it's actually connected with the Abu Dhabus. So if catastrophic scenarios happens, which means we can directly connect with the Abu Dhabi site to get the security reliable. Is it correct, if I understood? And my second...
we are splitting the security. We have to split security and reliability, right? Disaster recovery.
Yes.
So security is one part. If we are talking about the security of the data, you can use your own keys to encrypt all your data in the rest or in the transmission, etc., etc. It's a part of the any database solution in Azure. So any solution, by the way. So you can, for example, you have the blob storage and you are using this blob storage like a data lake for your solution. You can use your own key to encrypt any data. Microsoft will not read it. If we're talking about this database, yes, we can do this with the database. If we are talking about the disaster recovery and reliability, yeah, we can do this. And we have to go somewhere, let's say, portal. Just a second. Where we have, no, not this one. Let's Abu Dhabi, by the way. Let's take the database, and inside the database I can define my failover group and define what will be the next server, or I can manage the backups and say that this backup is a geo-replication backup, and this geo-replication backup will be in Abu Dhabi too.
I see. So it just happens in a real time, therefore our customers can easily figure out.
Yep, of course.
Okay, all right. My second question is
geo-replication. You see, it's turned it on in UAE North itself, right? So, and you can define.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Second question is about data sovereignty. For those developing countries, Asian countries, data sovereignty policies is not that strong enough, but it's still somehow developing under the governments. So if we are talking about the data sovereignty, is there anything, any recommendable advices from Azure?
Yes. So like at first, again, so like there's a lot of different, for example, for Abu Dhabi, they have their requirements, they have audits, templates for the data sovereignty, etc. But if we need, for example, I know that we are talking about the Mongolia, etc., or whatever, like Kazakhstan, I don't know. You can put the data, some critical data, in place, because again we are talking about the hybrid infrastructure, and if we are talking about the hybrid infrastructure, Microsoft has the Azure stack, like you buy some, like let's say a few servers that will be extension of your Azure subscription on premise. And if we are talking about some data that should be on premise, you can put it on Azure stack. If we are talking about the common common services, it will be in Azure with no issue. So it's a possible scenario.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
That's all from my side.
Okay. Thank you. And again, so like my goal here, do not explain you like blah blah blah, but also give you some sources and some ideas how to work with. Please take this document. It's official book from Microsoft. It's named Enterprise Cloud Strategy. I would just ask you to make attention that you need second edition, because third edition mostly the technical part, just blah 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 on the technical, but this one will help you to go with the any customer discussion. You can take the copy here.
Okay.
So with any customer discussion, because here they describe it full stack of the question, like what is a private cloud, what is the infrastructure platform, what is containers, what services, again, so like what is experimentation, migration, transformation, which by the way, as I mentioned before, the transformation and strategy of the organization, security issue, physical, etc. All of this, it's a really good book for the not technical people to understand the process to move to the Azure. Please look on it, read it, and just try to understand. It's less for the technical, more for the processes and business. You see. Okay, let's continue. And the next one, the second really important part of the solution, it's a Microsoft Cloud Adoption Framework. What is it? It's the second or maybe first Microsoft Cloud Adoption Framework. It's maybe first step, first tool for you to work with the migration and work with the customer. What it means? It means that when you want to start to talk with the customer, you can go and look, for example, for the motivation. What motivation could be for the customer? How to talk about the motivation, etc. And don't worry about the, I don't know, do we have any Mongolian abbreviation? You know, that's US, it's a United States English. If I type here Ruru, you know that I will get Russian. Will get? No? Why not? It should be. Just a second.
Yeah, I think so. We can just, I think we can just like turn into US. I think it's gonna work.
Yeah, but anyway, okay. So like again, so motivation, the customer motivation. What could be the business triggers to talk with the customer about the cloud? For example, data center exit. They are planning to change this, etc. Innovation, etc., etc. What business outcomes they can get from the Azure, and you can go through this one and understand some examples, etc., etc. What's the business justification you can provide, and again, right? So like myths that I tried to explain to you too, by the way, right? Why it's cost, what is ROI, what is TCO, etc., etc. And the same way, if we go back to the adoption framework itself, after that, this document is really, really good with templates. Here you can take the templates of the documents, like Cloud Journey Tracker, plan template, to work with readiness templates, governance. You want to have the Azure security benchmark. You're welcome. So like this one, all of this stuff you will find here. So what I'm going through, so like if you need some support, some additional thoughts, some additional documentation, templates, etc., you will find this on the Cloud Adoption Framework, Microsoft. So you will help, we will get the help with the define the strategy, with the plan. Let's go to the plan, why not? So the plan, skill readiness plan, by the way. Do you remember that it's one of the important things that we need to talk with the customer or understand from the customer side? Do not fail this part, please, because it's really important. So this is a skill assessment. We want to have something, I don't know, like rationalize your digital estate and what is you have here. Whatever. So like, please use it, and up to the technical stuffs, up to the technical steps, etc. You will find any help, governance, methodology, how to explain what is benchmark, what is the guides. It's your run book. So, but before, please, because it's more global, less details, go through this one. It will be really helpful for you to sell more. Once is 130 pages, it's quite less for this kind of the books, etc. Please go through, and please go through the Microsoft Cloud Adoption Framework for the Azure. Totally give you full idea for the migration, for methodology, for the discussions, etc. and documents. Same way, Azure Virtual Data Center. When you will start to migrate, or when you will start to explain customers what you will do for the migration, again, so lift and shift, it's a small part of the migration process, as you found before, right? The main part of the customer infrastructure will go here to the some spokes. It's a hub spoke infrastructure. If you don't know, it's named hub. We have here the hub with the main common services that should be presented always, and we have spoke with the customer workloads. For example, customer has some solution. No, we will not migrate the solution as is and left it alone on the cloud. It's not the right way. The right way that you have the isolated spoke, isolated environment that's connected to the hub by the special VNet peering. It's a technology in Azure that's connected to the central firewall with the required load balancer. It's if it's required based on the customer side, and the central firewall managed by the gateways. I mean, for example, express roads to get the connection to the on-premise. We will talk about, or with the point-to-site VPN or site-to-site VPN. We have this gateway part. We have this firewall part that protects the traffic. You can see how the traffic is going, right? Only over firewall. We have managed infrastructure with the jump boxes where the admins can go and manage some instances, etc. We have common services, shared services like Azure Active Directory, etc., and common operation services in Azure itself, like log analytics, like a NetWatcher, like system security center, etc. that's managed globally. So like we put it on the hub and manage spokes. So like this one, it should be again defined and discussed with the customer before, based of their requirements. Maybe this central firewall will be Azure firewall, or maybe it's not Azure firewall, but a third-party virtual network appliance inside the Azure, like virtual machine. Will we have the load balancer? Do we need it? Do we need the jump boxes? Do we need the common services and another services? We will discuss about the services. But anyway, this is the virtual center that should be built before you will move here the required customer workloads. And after that, you connect. Do you remember that? Sorry. I mentioned this is exactly the steps that we need to do. Build the Azure Virtual Data Center, build the hybrid identity and authentication, and build the cloud hybrid processes, connectivity, etc., on the team. So this is the part here, all of this stuff. After that, we just migrate the solution. And again, so like, if we are talking about the virtual data center, if you go to the document and go to the Google, right, put here book PDF, you will find again free book of the data center, or yeah, ebook or guide online that's updated early, etc., etc., etc. So this book, again, this is a technical book. It's described how to build, but frankly saying, mostly you can also use to explain the customer what they need to build, because there is a methodology, blah blah blah, etc., etc. Please give this book for your technical team, because it's really important to understand and go through. And of course, the migration. The migration of the Azure to the Azure from the on-premise solution based on the Azure Migrate service. Azure Migrate service, it's a hub in Azure for free for first 30 days. Why I am mentioning this? Because in case if you or customer or you don't want to spend the money or have no Azure subscription at all, but you will need it, you can open your free subscription, deploy free Azure Migrate service inside this free subscription for 30 days, and do the checking of the assessment and migration of the next option. So like, first of all, you can check the servers. It could be on-premise services, or like a physical devices, like a virtual machines inside the Azure, or inside the Hyper-V, or inside the VMware, etc., etc. Second one, it could be databases. You can check the databases, and after that, they migrate these databases. Is it possible to a SQL database or SQL managed instance? It's two different parts of the SQL path service in Azure. You can check and migrate your customer web application with Azure Application Server Migration Assistant. It will look on the application and say it's possible, not possible, and after that copy the code to the application in Azure Application Service. The same way for the virtual desktop, if customer has some VDIs, some remote desktop services, etc., how to migrate, how to check. It's again the assessment and migration for the Azure Migrate. And data. Moves the data itself, like a Azure Data Box. It's a special service in Azure. They give you the like a case. Inside this case, the protected devices, and if sustainability and consistency of this case will be vulnerability, so like it's will be automatically destroy all this data. I mean physically destroy the data. So you can copy the data on the special box and move it based on this like physical moving the data. After that, your box will be connected to the Azure, and you will have the data to the Azure like that's like how to transfer the terabyte of the data to the seconds. Put a lot of terabytes disks to the tracks, and just move it to the another city. The same way, right? And how it works exactly on practice, I will show you. Give me a second. I will switch on another account. I think this one. It's about the security, by the way. Let's check. Yeah, we choose the right subscription. There's already built the Azure Migrate. And what it means that we can see here all of our services, right? Plus, I already defined the migration project. To define the migration project, it means that I can go. Oops, no, wait. Why I can't see? Strange. Whatever. Justice. Maybe. Yeah. Oh. So I can choose any services or add additional services if I want. I will show you already deployed how it works. In reality, when you need to do the assessment and need to do the discovery, you can add additional appliance. So this is a wizard that give me ability to build the new appliance. What it means? It means, for example, if I want to build vSphere, VMware vSphere, I put the name of the environment, I generate the key, I download the file with the ready-to-use virtual machine, and use the same key to connect this appliance to the Azure. Practically, it looks like this one. So this is the appliance that's already started on the one of my laptop, and I can manage it. I can manage the access to the different machines. I can manage the access to the different infrastructure, etc., etc. And after that, this appliance, this is a virtual machine, will start and evaluate, get the data from the virtual machines in VMware, or physical machines, or Hyper-V machines, etc., and collect this data. To provide me what? To provide me idea how it works. So this is the servers that's already discovered. I did this exercise a lot. So you can see that on my laptop, I have these virtual machines with this data, with this parameter, with this operation system, etc., etc., etc. Same way, I can do the assessment. I can do the new assessment, like what it means. So it means that I collect this data, but right now I want to calculate what data, how much it will cost. For example, if I move these virtual machines to the West Europe with the automatic type or disk type detection, without any reserved instances, based on the performance or on-premises sizing. Performance-based, it means that system will take performance data from the virtual machines, and the size of the virtual machines will be calculated based on the, okay, if machine has the 32 terabytes of the memory, but in reality it's use 8 gigs of RAM. Let's use 8 gigs of RAM virtual machines. Why we need to have the 32? Same for the CPUs, same for the disk, etc., etc. Type of the series, all of this we will discuss, right? And after that, we will get ready to use assessment. So I have two assessments. One assessment as on premise, and this assessment, you see, provide me 5,000 to price for the 8 machines. Which machines and which cost details you can find here. You can export this like a file on the Excel. It's outdated, but anyway, you see that the cost calculated and size is calculated by like a most standard D16v3, D16v3, because the size of this machine is huge, a little bit huge. But same way, if we go here and use the performance based, we can see that there is only 2020, so 2.5 times cheaper. Why? Because the solution calculated with the right size. So if these machines utilize it only like D2 but not D16, so like it's not required 16 gigs of RAM or 32 gigs of RAM, but it's not using the memory at all. Why we need to use the as is? We can use the D2 or even DS1. You see, this one it's not calculated because was turned off all time. And you see that like the size of this machine is calculated just like D16 because no any data. And you can see here the price, so like it's quite big price for this solution. At the same time, you can look on the readiness. Is this operation system ready to migrate, ready to move to the cloud? It's unknown also because again all these machines was stopped before started, but anyway we can look on it and read the additional information. If it's not possible to migrate to Azure, okay, so like we will not be able. And same time I can again play with the changes. Need to recalculate. For example, I already have the Windows license, like I have, for example, customer has the enterprise agreement. Enterprise agreement contains Azure hybrid benefits, so we can say that I already have the Windows license, so it means that's okay. The price will not include the price for the Windows license in the Azure side. You know that this is price too. And it's how you can do the assessment. So like main idea here is that you don't need to touch client infrastructure. You just need to help customer, or your technical team helps customer to build one image that I show you before for the discovery, and use this discovery image to scan the network. Customer will provide the all credentials here. You see, I provided my credentials to work with the infrastructure. Customer will provide the credentials. You can build again the free infrastructure. Just need someone who will guide customer how to start this image inside the VMware or inside the Hyper-V or on the physical machine. And after that, all data will be collected. You can play with it. If you need to have more detailed data, for example, I want to have more detailed with the, I don't know, like Zen virtual network or virtual. So you can subscribe for another assessment tool. Microsoft, talk with the Microsoft, local Microsoft, they will provide you some free licenses or trial licenses to do the short assessment if you will talk about like hundreds or thousands of virtual machines. And after that, this tool will allow you to replicate this data to the Azure itself. So after that, we did the migration, we have the migration plan, and we will be able to replicate the solution. Same one for, as I mentioned before, for the database. You say that I want to assess, download the agent, and the agent should be started on the client side where the database. VDI, the same way. Tools for assessment, sorry. Again, so it's not for free. You can look for the pricing, you can contact the Microsoft to ask to do this. I see. To go through the identity and data box, as I mentioned before, import to Azure, subscription, resource group where this data will be placed, and region where this data should be moved physically, right? So all of this stuff give you first step to calculate the sizes. But anyway, again, so main idea, you will be able to play with the numbers. You will be able to see how the numbers is different and talk with the customer about why this different. Because when you are doing the performance based, it's always will be less, 2-3 times less, because it's calculated exactly with the real utilization of the virtual machines. And again, so a customer wants a premium disk, but in reality no any requirements for the premium disk, because no one use these high intensive disk operations, and why it's calculated like a storage. But if you standard or standard SSD, not premium. But if we look on this assessment, it's calculated like a standard SSD for all. Is it clear? I mean, for the demo. Yeah, this is, by the way, the tools. We already discussed it, and we did this Azure Migrate for infrastructure assessment. But again, so this is not final price. You have to understand this, and you have to explain this for the customer. We just calculated the price for the virtual machines and disks for these virtual machines. That's all, nothing more. But again, so like it's a consumption model, and the consumption costs for virtual machines, for application services, for the database. But for the data storage cost, it depends on the type of the resources. For example, you have to understand that different disk, like a standard HDD, SSD, or premium SSD, has the different prices. It's 4 times from the standard HDD to the premium SSD. It's true. But for example, premium SSD provides you SLA for the single machine like 99.95%, right? If you are looking for the standard HDD, the SLA will be 99.9. So like it's a quite big difference based on some requirements. It's first one. Second one, again, for the blob. If we are talking about the blob storage, the different way how you store the data, or customer stores the data, it's a different price. So like it could be hot, cool, or archive blob, plus the replication cost. And for this one, you can use Azure price calculator. Oops, sorry. Azure pricing calculator. For example, for the virtual machine, it's quite clear, but for the storage accounts, right? Let's go for the storage account. Look, we have the storage account with the blob, with the 1 terabyte of the data, standard performance, typically local, no replication, hot. The price with the some operations, you need to again know the operations that will be calculated here, $21. If we go to the cool, we will have with the same price $26. Why? Because the cool means that you will not have any operations. The price for the cool operations, it's really high. So it means that you move the data to the cool operation like one time, and after that stop to use it for a month, and the price will be $15. And if we go to the archive, the price will be, where is the price? Yeah, archive. The price will be, sorry, 0. You see the price for the that was like a price for the read operations, etc. Oh, what retrieving 0. So $1. You see how it's really depends on the type. So hot blob, it's expensive by default for the price, but the operation price is really low. Like I don't know how many data you will send, etc., etc. Write operation, but anyway, this is the way to talk with the customer and understand the procedure. Same time, look, this one is the hot. If we will zone redundancy, it means that if the data center has a few zones, It will be stored for the different zones. And the price will be already 26, it's not 20. If we go to the geo-replication between the data center like UAE North and UAE Central, we will have 65. And if we go to the read-only, 76 for the reading, because the reading is the question, the 0. 50, but anyway, two times again. So the reading is important. Geo-replication, zone redundancy. Again. So this is the way to play, and you need to understand these scenarios. I try to explain this here, like what could be the main points of the price. Traffic, any egress traffic, any outbound connectivity outside Azure, you will pay. Any cross-network connectivity like VNet peering, but it's required for the security, it's required for the isolation, etc., etc. It's required some time for the application itself. Some virtual appliance, like for example, SQL managed instance in Azure could be created only with the separate subnets on the empty VNet. So right, it should be done before. Some options like a private endpoints, you will have to pay for it. Let's see this too. Let's start the new one.
Well, can I ask the question?
Yep.
Just now you showed the calculator part, right? Is this shown to our customers? Basically, because we are partners, so obviously we're gonna come up with their own portal, and the calculation will gonna show us like how much the storage based on the requirements. But this site can be shown to our customers
Yes,
or no?
yes, it's available for the customer. I will show you. I got your point. I will show you where's the difference. Just a second. So what virtual network?
Because my purpose of this question is that the partners company, obviously we will gonna add up our margin as well.
Yes.
So
Look,
if this part can be shown to our customers,
this one will be shown for the customers, but based on their customer prices. It's like online service agreement, enterprise agreement, or Microsoft customer agreement. That's all. If I will sign out here and sign in again with the partner, let's do another way, because I know this feature. If I will sign in here with my
partner account.
Yes, partner account. Yes, security. Here, no any calculation, I hope, because it's here should be no. Okay, no. Here, network. Okay, this is the network. You see, so like this is the peering. For example, between the region, we will send the terabyte per day. The peering inside the UAE North will cost me for 30 terabytes per day, will cost me $600 for the peering if this data is sent really often. It's why I am taking like 1 terabyte per day, because it's a normal traffic if you are fully utilized 100 megabits network. 100 megabits network, it means it's exactly 1 terabyte per day. So like it will cost me $600. But same time, here I have CSP price, 500.
Okay, so that's kind of like deducting as a partner, which is a discount
Yes,
part,
but you again,
which
yeah,
is
you can calculate. Plus, I did not show this. The same you can do with the Azure Migrate. There is also options to calculate and deduct some discounts, etc., etc. If you are like a partner on the different programs, you will see all this stuff here. So my account just only for the cloud provider, and it's why I can see this. And the same way I can do any other calculation. But before, again, so like look on the customer traffic, cross endpoint, by the way, private endpoint, private link. Private link, for example, you need this private link for security reasons, or customer ask you for security reasons to publish some private links, to publish some services inside, blah blah blah, whatever. So for example, I'm using the private link, I'm using the same 1 terabyte per day for the 1 terabyte inbound. Look, it's inbound outbound traffic, just to be sure. And just a private link will cost me $260 per month. You have to explain this for the customer, and you have to be clear, and you have to explain this again. So like for log analytics, for example, yeah, customer wants to have the monitoring. Azure Monitor. Azure Monitor, it's a really cool feature. I will show you this feature maybe. Whatever, but look, for example, I'm planning to manage the virtual machines, log analytics. I'm planning to manage it in UAE North. I am planning to monitor the virtual machines I have, for example, customer with 250 machines. Each virtual machines generate about 4 gigabytes per day. And the price for this monitoring will be like a $2,700, $800 per month to monitor these machines in log analytics. If customer wants to see, you see, it's even says it's like the price. So like if you play, or you know how many data you need to collect, what data will be collected, etc. Yeah, it's easy to manage and explain the customer why this price, etc., etc. The same for backups. Backups is absolutely unbelievable part of the calculation. I will explain you why. Look, at first you need to remember that the sizes of in Azure place it on the not megabytes or gigabytes, but gigabytes. That's calculated not by 1024, right? 1024, but calculated by 1000. And what it means? It means that, for example, I want to have the backup of the virtual machine. And this virtual machine has the one drive 162. Cost will be $17. I am planning to save this backup for the 30 days. I am planning to store this backup for the 104 weeks. It's 2 years. I am planning to store it for the 12 months and additional 5 years. And the cost will be for this one, you see, 122. Why? Because they are working with the chunk by 500 by one. So like 172 give us 25. 17. You see, if you start 17. Is it clear?
Yes, very much clear.
So please ask the customer build, but the disk on the virtual machine builds like this. So when the customer builds the disk will be built like 512 gigabytes. But anyway, so like the backup is calculated by chunk with 500. Again, so it's really important to understand the right types and right sizing of the virtual machines. Azure provides you some idea, but even when you are doing choosing the when we are doing the assessment, right, we are doing the selection. You see, you can choose, by the way, the type of your prices, discounts, and whatever. But when we are doing the choosing of the virtual machines, right size should be also selected here. Look, for example, compute optimization, high performance optimization, etc., etc. What it means? It means that in Azure, if you type Azure VM sizes, you will get the list of the sizes that's, for example, for the general purpose, for the compute optimized, memory optimized, storage optimized, GPU high performance computing. When you choose this on the migration or discuss with the customer, please look on these sizes or ask your team to check the sizes that was provided. For example, A version, it's really, really cheap, but if you look on it, it says, guys, this size is throttling. It's not receive even one core, half of the core for the to work with it. Please do not use it and do not choose it for the production. And after that, you can find the ways how to work with it. And look, there's a really important part named ACU. ACU, it's exactly the one-to-one core mapping. When you are selecting something, you can find that, for example, for F1, you will have one-to-one core mapping for the, and the ACU, how much performance it will receive. You see, this is the level. So like, for example, A receive 100, and even the cheaper D receive 160. Is it clear? Yeah, I think yes. So database. Database is really long discussion, etc. And from my perspective, I would recommend you to start with the database like DTU model. What is DTU model? A DTU model means that there is a set of the operations that Microsoft says that, guys, we will execute this operation for the database guarantee in 1 second. Well, so it means that, for example, DTU 800. DTU 800 means that 800 same operations will be able to execute in one second. If you need more performance, you will add more. So it's not about the memory. It's not about it's not about the CPUs, etc. If it's clear database or like native database with a little bit of storage procedures, with a little bit of the operation, it will be really useful to use DTU model. There is a question, can you explain the comfort factor of the assessment tool? Comfort factor of the assessment tool, where is it? Where is my assessment tool? It's for example, you know that your infrastructure will not be strictly following this size. For example, sometimes you will need additional power, you will need additional things, etc. And typically Microsoft says, please select the comfort factor 1.2. So it will be like additional calculation. The same for here. What exactly will used for the utilization? 50% utilization or 90%, or like what we will take in account, which parts, let's say. So 50s, it will be more let's say, aggressive than 28, because for 28 you will look on the, let's say, more utilization. It's more relaxed, so like bigger memory, bigger CPUs, because achieve this 50s more often than achieves 97s, for example, right? Or 95s. Okay. So please start with DTU. It will be clear for the customer. DTU model of the database is really clear. Just how much DTUs you need and how much, how many gigabytes you need. That's all. Again, do not forget about the networking. Load balancer, VPN gateways, right? Virtual gateways for the network. We will discuss it. It costs money. Applications gateway and WAF, you pay by instance how many, not exactly the gateway itself, but inside gateway, Azure starts one more instances inside, or you can define how many instances will be started. You have to pay. Azure firewall, you are using the Azure firewall, so like the traffic and the rules you have to pay. Really important if the customer planning to move with the API management. It's a nightmare for some some customers after, because they try to start with the cheaper, but they don't understand the integration requirements. For example, standard API management does not connect to the virtual networks, and if they need to connect to the virtual machine on-premise services from the API management, it's required integration. And guess what? You're right, yeah. If we go here and say API management and choose the standard API management, this size, look, like developers, $40, clear, right? Basic, 100. Standard, 500. All of these, basic and standard, does not connect to the do not connect to the virtual network. It means that if you need to connect to the virtual network, you need to start with the premium. Can you see the difference? Just because it's premium and it has the some no limitation, right? Like a connection to the VNets, work with the on-premise infrastructure, etc., etc. This is the really important part. The same, by the way, for the application gateway. If you go here with the application gateway and look for the application gateway, let's say UAE Central, whatever, there is a different way. So basic, okay, but I need web application firewall version 2 because there is a rewrite, there is a lot of. Do you remember that I mentioned about the compute instances? If you have more than 1,000 connection, 2,000 connection, it's automatically create additional instance, or by traffic up to 2 megabytes per second. If you look, for example, the price for the typically 1 or 10 compute instance or 20 compute instance we are using for this traffic, etc. And outbound traffic will be like 5 terabytes. The price will be quite different than by the default, because like customer looks typically, okay, I have basic. Why I need more? I need just 2 instances. No. I need to process like 5 terabytes of the data, and 5 terabytes, so like the price 2 times smaller than this one. Okay. And applications, the same. So when you build the application...
Sorry, Igor. Can I interrupt you for a second?
Yep.
Yeah, I want to jump to the previous topic about the licensing. So we do have several customers like to schedule to with the Azure Migrate. And one thing we are stuck in right now is the hybrid benefit licensing. This, if I know if you are aware in the Azure, before we did have standard license options in the Azure, but now only have database licenses in Azure. So if the customer has already purchased standard OLP licenses with the software assurance, will they be able to use the hybrid benefits?
Yeah, if it's open license, yes, I think yes. But anyway, so this is the question. There's a lot of different scenarios, etc. Just contact the Microsoft and say that this is what we have. Does this customer have? Because I know that's like, for example, some academics program by default has this benefits. Enterprise agreements has this benefit. Some open license has this benefit. So like, you just need to contact with Microsoft Office with their licensing specialist and ask, is it or not? It's better way. What we recommend for all our customers, please call to Microsoft, to your account manager, to the license specialist, and ask, do you have or not the benefits? Just to be sure. So it's easiest way, do from the customer side. Yeah, and by the way, thank you that you remember me. This one, you have to understand also that the license price will be going up as far as you add the CPU, because it's not just one license. Look, we have the virtual machine, we have a Windows machine, we have two CPUs, we have the license for $57 per month for the license, and virtual machines that cost 75, right? So it means it's like mostly 40% of the price it's license. If we go with the next size, which has 4 CPUs, it's multiplied by 2. If customer wants more CPUs, the price of the CPUs or licenses will grow in too, because the license will be increased by this number of the packages of the 2 CPUs each. So every 2 CPU will have additional. So you can have the discount based on again. So like a license benefits 0. Okay, so this price it's quite better, right? So like 2 times mostly. Or dedicate the price with the reservation, like a 1-year subscription or 3-year subscription, etc. But you will have upfront costs. Again, but you need to talk with your account manager or client account manager. And back to the virtual web applications. I will show you one of the biggest website in UAE. Just to understand, so like, when these guys asked me what will be the price, I say, no, I don't know, really don't know, because it depends on a lot of factors, a lot of number of the requests. Where is here? A lot of requests, etc., etc. And in reality, this price. Depends on the number of the instances that's used by application. Each application started inside application service has the instances. And if we look on it, you can see that these instances, let's do 1 month. These instances started with the 3. After that, with the some number of the request going to 4, and you will pay for 4 instances. After that, you will go down to the 3. After that, even to the 10, going down, but for the small period, right? And after that, it's growing to the up to 6 and work about 1 day for the 6, go to the 5, go to the 4, go to the 3, go, and still going up and down, depends again of the number of the request, of the quality of the code, of the that we are using, etc., etc. And it means that the price will be absolutely unpredictable, and if the customer wants to down this price, customer need to talk with their developers, or you have to talk with the developers and help them to understand how to build the native Azure application, how to optimize the code, etc., etc. We are using Premium V2. We are using the smallest one core. It's again so like one of the strategy. And let's imagine that we have 6. It's 7. Right? If we average have the 4, it's 5,000. And again, so it should be predicted or reviewed before. And again, the tiering, if we use the standard, it will be 2 times less. If we use the basic, it's even more. If we're using the P1, it's not available. Yeah, so like P3, sorry. Why we are using the premium? Because again, some feature of the premiums allow us to do the integration, etc., etc. That's not available on the standard, and it's why it's P versions instead of standard. So like when the customer asked you about the application services, logic application, number of the instances, and model of the integration. If we go with the integration isolated solution, look, this is isolated solution. Let's say 2, 2, 1. The price of the isolated solution will be exactly huge than exactly the application. So we will totally pay 3,000, but with a lot of additional benefits that's provided by isolating. But anyway, so like we fine with just a P. But this is the way how to talk with. Frankly saying, it's just one part of the presentation, 2 parts of the presentation. But we spent about 2 hours. Maybe I don't know. Maybe let's ask. Let's ask Nadia. Are you here? Looks like.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I'm here.
Okay, so like, should we continue or should we postpone the next part for the maybe next month? Next weekend or whatever, because we just jumped about the cost and migration, but there is a lot of things that we have to discuss, exactly how to build hybrid infrastructure and what it's mean, what services we discuss it, and it's additional too.
I think we can continue next week or one more week, because 2 hours ago, and I think we should to finish.
But again, so like I want to ask the visitors: is it clear for you? Is it what you expected? And are there some new information for you to talk with your customer? Will it helpful for you?
Yeah, it's actually quite helpful and crystal clear. Thank you very much. And if we have any other questions, I guess we will send the questions
we
to
can
Ms.
spend
Nadia.
additional 10-15 minutes for the questions. So if you have the questions, you're welcome for the answers. I will try to answer for this or maybe any other topics you want to ask. So let's go with the session of the Q&A. Colleagues, you're welcome. So if you have any questions about the pricing, about the migration, some details, some migration strategy, I'm ready. I'm here and ready to help you and answer for the questions.
I have some, not questions, but just maybe the comments about the future webinars, because this one was very fruitful webinar, and I think maybe in the future meetings, if we could, separate the certain topics, then have some sessions about that, it would be much more,
If you have some proposal,
focused.
if you have some proposal about the topics that you need, etc., and that will help you for the sales perspective or technical pre-sales or even technical, so we are ready to help you. And please contact with MUK, with Nadia directly. Anyway, you are on the touch. If I am not wrong,
Sure.
right? So like, it means that's like anytime, like if you want to have some additional details or some additional info, etc., you can ask and do some dedicated meetings, etc. Because, for example, it's unfortunate. I don't know from which country you are, but on my YouTube channel, I have already some records about if you're interested in the technical details, you can go to the my YouTube. I forgot to do on English, but anyway, so like it's on Russian language, but if you understand it a little bit, you can go through the fundamentals. So like, for example, if you need to understand the what is capex, opex, etc in Azure, what is the elastics, scalability, etc., what is the difference between private, public, hybrid cloud, what is IaaS pass, detail it. So like there is a certain free videos, and after that you will be able to even do the exam.
Understood. Okay.
Plus,
Thank you very
on
much.
my LinkedIn, if you again contact with me or look just on the profile, there's a lot of posts. I'm trying to post all of the stuff like new books, interesting books, etc. That's my videos that I published before, and whatever.
Okay. Thanks, Igor.
Let's see. Where's my activities? See, for example, if you're looking for the books, so like it's easy to find the books, but anyway, for example, where is it? Just a few days ago, I published free books, link to the free books. Nope. Where is it? It was far away. But whatever. So like I got the idea. You can find a lot of information on the English, on the Russian. I'm trying to do the mix of plus articles also. This one, you see, Azure for Architect. So like if you need to go through your skills or let's say build the technical team in your organization, we will discuss this after, by the way, too, because I have some steps how to build the managed services and what is expectation for the modern cloud managed services, right? And which services it's required, it's also here. But anyway, if you are planning to build the team, so like it will be possible to look on this, where is it? Downloads, Azure Books should be, really useful book, and you can take it for free.
Thanks, Igor.
Yep. Okay. Any other questions? Please do not be shy. Azure Stack Hub. Azure Stack Hub, it's really cool feature, but unfortunately, to make the session about it, I have only previous version. from 2018, not modern version of Azure Hub. So like if you are looking for the something like Azure Stack demos, etc., unfortunately, for now it's not possible to do the full demo of the Azure Stack Hub. I can explain you how it works. I can give you some idea by the like basic operations, but if you're looking for the exactly hub, let's say, I have no capability to present you the hub itself. So like part of the on-premise infrastructure was planned to discuss today. It's Azure's Arc. Maybe Azure Arc will be interesting for you too, to look on it and how it's used, etc. Anyway, I have a separate presentation about Azure Arc. You will find Azure Arc presentation on my LinkedIn again account. But anyway, maybe it will be helpful for you too than Azure Hub itself, Azure Stack, sorry, Hub. So Nadia already published her own email. So please contact Nadia to provide the topics that you are looking for, etc.
Yeah, colleagues, thank you so much.
And we are waiting. We are waiting for the second session. And this second session, you see, is like a lot of additional information too. So this second session will be exactly about the connectivity between the Azure and on-premise, Active Directory and synchronization, some services, Azure Arc that you can use exactly in on-premise, right? And Windows Admin Center, etc. All this stuff, it's available just to make your interest better. Look, for example, if we are talking about the Azure Monitor, what you can do, you can collect data from the virtual machines, and after that use the log analytics to do some estimation, to do some monitoring from on-premise and Azure machines, and for example do guess what, this one is the forecasting of the virtual machines at all. So this is the sizes of the disks, and this one forecast for the sizing of the disk for the next month. You see, and looking even on this diagram, I can predict and can see that the size for some Jambox server, right, going down for 10% to the month. I need to check what's going on. Same time, the same things, it's like a GitLab runner. So it's again going down from 75, yeah, 10% per month. So like I need to check the processes, or customer need to check the processes to understand what's going on, etc. So like it's really cool solution to control and monitor not only Azure but also on-premise, collect the data, do prediction, do forecasting, analysis, etc. It's one of the topic that we will discuss next time. It's exactly what some short demonstration of the Azure Monitor. Okay, more questions? Where do we download the free books? Again, so like for the free books, you can download directly from the internet, or Nadia will send you, if you will contact with Nadia, Nadia will send you. If you contact with Nadia, you will say Nadia will send you the links. Anyway, if you type Azure Enterprise Cloud Strategy 3rd edition, it will give you the link to the blog, Azure blog, and on the Azure blog you will get the copy of this one. If you will type the Azure Virtual Data Center book PDF, it will give you the Azure Virtual Center framework, and here you will be redirected to the download the book. You see, it's again. So if we are talking about the framework itself, cloud adoption framework, it's easy. Just type Azure Cloud Adoption Framework on the search, and you will receive the first Azure Cloud Adoption Framework page. Let's demonstrate again. Azure Cloud Adoption Framework. And anyway, you will find the video on my LinkedIn profile too, maybe in a few days, to look on it. Please go straight. What about the question about the Azure Web? What do you mean about the Azure Web? Sorry, did not get. Okay, I got it. But anyway, if you need to, we also have some presentation in English, by the way, how to sell the web application transformation. I thought that's the question about this. So like if you need to explain the customer how to do not just a migration but transformation, what scenarios, etc., I have this kind of presentation too. So, but not for the next time. For the next time, we will continue with the already defined topics, I think. Sorry about that. That we out of time, but I think it was helpful for the migration and understanding the price. Nadia?
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Evening, by the way. Evening. Mostly it's like, I think, how much it's now? Like 3 p.m. in Mongolia.
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much, and bye.
And welcome. Just subscribe, etc., to the profile.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yep, you're welcome. If someone has the questions, nope, not.